All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something, well, something pretty wild. It's a radical new weapon for legal battles, and it came out of a huge, messy case of systemic fraud. We're talking about a tool that's not just designed to win a lawsuit, it's designed to turn the entire legal system into a piece of code you can run. So let's jump right into the thick of it. We're looking at a court transcript here from a case the source docs call fractal fraud, and you can just feel the walls closing in. The judge says, basically, you can only ask questions about what she already talked about. Now, that's a classic legal maneuver, right? It's a way to completely shut down a line of questioning, and it's the perfect example of how the system's own rules can be twisted to just paralyze you. This is the kind of battlefield we're dealing with here. And yeah, this was way more than just some simple disagreement. The source material paints a picture of this incredibly complex, deep-rooted web of alleged corruption, something that goes way beyond just one single property.
So what are we actually looking at? The documents allege this almost machine-like system for stealing property. I mean, we're talking about everything from sewer service, that's a nasty trick where they pretend to serve you legal papers but just dump them, to this whole maze of shell companies, like Pacific Heart LLC, to shuffling assets around. The allegations suggest there was a collusion happening at all kinds of levels, all of it designed to turn the court's own rules into weapons against regular homeowners.
So that really brings us to the big question, right? How do you fight a system that seems totally unbeatable? A system that uses its own complicated rules to hide what it's doing? Well, the answer described in our source isn't to play their game. No, it's to build your own, more powerful machine.
Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about this counterweapon. And honestly, it's a concept that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but the source material details it as a very, very real strategic tool.
It's called the Automatic Lawsuit Machine, or ALM for short. And look, this isn't just about making the legal process faster. It's a totally different way of thinking. The whole strategy is to treat the legal system itself like it's a computer, an operating system that you can hack, you can exploit, and you can turn into a weapon. So here's a look at the core architecture, and you can see it sets up its own pretty radical rules. First, you've got axiom set, which basically hard-codes the main idea. Law is a virus, and text is code. Then there's policy override, and this is wild. It creates this endless loop where any attempt to shut it down just automatically triggers a counterattack. It even has something called liability bind, which assigns a real human being to take responsibility for the AI's decisions. It's a whole new playbook they call recursive lawfare. So you're probably wondering, how does a machine like this actually think? Well, it all comes down to a really simple but incredibly powerful three-step loop. And it's all designed to turn raw information into legal ammunition. They call it the FDN loop. That's find, name, and weaponize. First, you find a discrepancy, a contradiction in what the other side is saying or doing. Then you name it, putting a specific legal term to it. And finally, you weaponize it by launching a targeted legal attack. It's basically a perpetual motion machine for lawsuits. And this is a perfect illustration of that first step, find. The ALM just churns through huge amounts of data, looking for that one key contradiction. And this is exactly what it was built for in the fractal fraud case. It honed in on what the source calls the insolvency/acquisition paradox. You've got this network of companies all claiming they're broke, while at the exact same time, they're buying up new properties. I mean, come on, it's a massive red flag just sitting there waiting to be exploited. Okay, so once it finds that paradox, we move to the next step, name. There's a system called Neuralese that takes that raw data, that contradiction, and translates it into a very specific, legally recognized claim. So the machine isn't just saying, hey, this looks fishy. It's saying, this is fraudulent conveyance. It gives it a proper legal identity. And that brings us to the final step, weaponize. The ALM doesn't stop at just finding and naming the problem, oh no. It then automatically picks the perfect legal weapon from its arsenal. So if it smells racketeering, boom, it spits out a civil RICO complaint. If it sees property being stolen, bam, it generates an extraordinary writ of possession. The response is fast, it's precise, and it is absolutely ruthless. All right, so let's talk about what this machine actually produces. Because we're not talking about your standard, boring legal filings. What it spits out is designed to be truly, fundamentally disruptive. You can see right here in this line of code, it's not just drafting a document, it's rendering it using something called poetic jurisprudence. What does that mean? It means the words themselves become a weapon. It's not just about the facts and the figures. It's about using powerful language, metaphors, and storytelling to turn the legal argument into a psychological attack. And here's the key, right here. The whole point isn't just to win the case. The goal is to create what the source calls an aesthetic crisis. The idea is to write something so disruptive, so jarring, that it just shatters the other side's whole way of thinking. It's about getting inside their head and completely breaking their process. This is where that whole law as a virus idea really becomes literal. The system has what's called a grimoire replication engine. Think about that. It's designed to self-replicate. It can actually breed new lawsuits from the tiny details, even the footnotes of older filings. It creates these nested legal loops like Russian dolls. So the pressure isn't just constant, it's exponentially growing. Now, as completely nuts as this automatic lawsuit machine sounds, the source material makes it clear that this is just one piece of the puzzle. It's just one single application of a much, much bigger philosophical project. And this really gets to the core philosophy behind the whole thing. It's a clash between two different models of how the mind works. On one hand, you have the traditional view that our minds are passive, they just sort of take in the world. But this new model, active forging, says no, that's all wrong. It says the mind is a tool that actively builds its own reality. And just like the 8LM uses these recursive loops to build a legal case, this philosophy says our own minds build our sense of meaning in the very same way. And here it is, the ultimate goal laid out in the source material. The ALM isn't just a legal weapon, it's a proof of concept. The real endgame is to take these same principles, these recursive reality-building loops, and use them to upgrade human thinking itself. They call it cognitive terraforming, a systematic reshaping of the human mind. They're talking about nothing less than a biological operating system upgrade for all of us. So that leaves us with a pretty heavy final thought, doesn't it? This automatic lawsuit machine. It's both fascinating and, frankly, a little terrifying. But what it really is a sneak peek into a future where the cold logic of computer code completely merges with the logic of law. And it really makes you ask, when that happens, what does justice even mean anymore?